Hello, I'm Aleix from Kleros. And for those who don't know, Kleros is a dispute resolution protocol, completely decentralized and in Ethereum. So yeah, that means that anyone with a dispute can just call our smart contract and we will draw a random set of jurors that will resolve that question. And yeah, I'm doing this brief introduction because this will come up later. But yeah, this talk is about self-regulation. And I would like to start with a brief landscape evaluation, because I think it's really important to get the context. I think we are in a highly technological field, meaning that we are in the edge of technology, and that creates a gap between knowledgeable users and users new to the ecosystem. And this tied together with the fact that the blockchain is mostly focused on financial use cases that most of the times require a monetary investment. This makes scammy projects the opportunity to create a discourse that is not that different from legitimate projects. You know, I can go to Twitter and start advertising high yield, and from the perspective of a new user, my discourse and the discourse of a legitimate project might not be that different. So this makes that the new users coming in the ecosystem are going to be faced with tokens that go up, go up, go up until they don't, rug pulls, and yeah, even Ponzi schemes. And from their perspective, it's really, really hard to differentiate the discourse of these projects from legitimate projects. Yeah, so what can we do about it? And the answer to that is another question. Do you recognize this logo? If you do, raise your hand. Okay, so you are not alone. This is the Forest Stewardship Council logo. And in their latest market report, these are their numbers. It's a logo that is recognized by more than 70% of the population and even higher numbers in the newer generations. And more importantly, 35% of people buying actively look for these certifications. And I'm bringing this up because quoting from their website, they are a group of enterprises and local communities that wanted to create a certification to improve how people were exploiting the forests, the rainforest. And yeah, they say that they wanted to create a non-coercitive market-based approach to improve the situation. And I'm glad to tell you that rather than this being the exception, there's a huge environment of private-led certification and private-led regulation that helps every consumer making their buying decisions. You can see Rainforest Alliance and so on. And we might have a question, okay, so we get together, we realize we need to make some certification for new people coming in to differentiate legitimate from illegitimate projects. How we do that in a decentralized manner? Okay, here's where Kleros comes in. At Kleros, we have been launching from quite a long time our token list, which is a decentralized list of tokens compliant with the ERC20 standard. Currently is the biggest decentralized list of tokens with more than 1,000 tokens. And you can use it on Uniswap, Paraswap, and a whole number of integrations. And yeah, this is important because I want to show you how efficient the community is at detecting scams. And to do that, I will highlight this case. There was a time at the beginning of this list that we had a partnership with a centralized exchange. And yeah, this list, as I said before, it's a list of tokens compliant with the ERC20 standard. But we were able to add badges or certification standards on top of it. So we agreed with a centralized exchange that we could give up award a new a badge based on more strict certification. For example, we needed to dox the team members, and we needed to review the white paper, and so on and so forth. And yeah, there was a project called BirdChain that first applied for the ERC20 compliance, and it passed. But then they applied for this extra compliance badge. And the community started to investigate, and they detected that the CTO was, in fact, a fake person. They took a random picture from Facebook and created a fictional curriculum. And yeah, the community by themselves just investigated. They called Oxford because in the curriculum of the CTO, they said that it was part of some Oxford research laboratory. So they called Oxford. Oxford said that that laboratory didn't exist. And yeah, months later, we saw that the Chinese police department classified BirdChain as a Ponzi scheme. So we can see that the community was way more efficient and quick than centralized regulators. But let's see how this works under the hood, okay? So the bare bones version would be like this. We create a list on-chain with an admission policy. Then anyone, any user, is able to submit things to this list, to submit entries with a deposit. So in this case, we have Alice submitting the Pinakion token to the list, adding a deposit. And now there are two paths that this can follow. If the submission is legitimate, the entry will go unchallenged, and the entry will get accepted, and Alice will get the deposit back. But what happens if the user is proposing an incorrect entry, meaning an entry that does not conform or does not comply with the admission policy? So again, anyone, because we are in a permissionless and open protocol, anyone can challenge this entry, putting another deposit. And here's where Kleros comes in. As I said before, it's a dispute resolution mechanism. There's a dispute. The proposer believes that the token pertains in the list. The challenger thinks it does not. So Kleros just draws a set of jurors from the staked PNK holders. And this set of jurors will vote on a verdict for this token. In this case, as you can see, the entry didn't make it into the list. So Bob, the challenger, got his deposit back plus Alice's deposit. So that's the incentive to keep the list clean. And yeah, we at Kleros didn't stop there, and we are still experimenting. And one good example of that is OpenVino, which is a project that was recently incubated by us. And they are doing organic wine certification using Kleros, using a mechanism really similar to this one. And yeah, which are the benefits of certification-based regulation? So for once, I think that leveling the playing field, because right now we have legitimate projects that are competing with illegitimate projects, promising higher and unsustainable yields. So in this environment, if we add a certification, these legitimate projects will have a market-based and non-coercitive advantage over these illegitimate projects. Another good point is that it will ease the entry for new users, because new users will be able to look, as we saw before, people actively look for certifications when they are in the market. So if we could tell them, hey, we have this badge, just look for it, and you will be somewhat safe. And also, and I think this is quite important, negotiation opportunities. Right now, we are seeing huge supranational entities like the European Union trying to regulate crypto. And if I try to put myself in their position, and they picking into this environment, yeah, they will be quite afraid, because we are like everyone doing our thing, and nobody is trying to coordinate and make something to create a safe environment. I believe that if we get together and if we self-regulate, these entities will have something to look when they pick into this ecosystem. And I think this will ease the policies that will regulate us in the end. And there's also extra benefit, and that this is the perfect example to show what the blockchain is capable of. Because all the solution will be completely on-chain. It will be public, meaning that anyone can audit any part of the process. It will be open and permissionless, meaning that anyone can participate, and without asking permission or authorization for anything. You can propose entries, you can challenge entries, and there's no restriction on that. It's decentralized, meaning that there is no central entity that has to publish the canonical list, because it's already in the blockchain, so that's the single source of truth. And it's always updated, and you can check the history. And finally, it's an amazing decentralized finance building block. Imagine insurance giving flat rate across all projects in the list. Imagine wallets adding projects in the list to the user interfaces. Possibilities are endless. But there's an elephant in the room, right? How are we going to make the policy for the list? Because, okay, yeah, we have seen how we are able to award this certification in a decentralized way. But how do we actually make the policy to prevent illegitimate coins from going into the list? How can we discriminate between them? So that's a really hard question. And the way to organize that, I would like to see Gillian Hadfield. In her book, Rules for a Flat World, she theorizes about this entity, this super regulator, setting a baseline and a set of objectives for this policy. And then having different regulators taking this general policy, adapting, making it their own, and applying them to the centralized exchanges, token projects, etc. We believe that Kleros can play that role, as I explained before. And yeah, I would like to hope that this super regulator can be some kind of DAO. And yeah, so to sum up a bit, there's a gap currently, because the crypto assets are growing exponentially. Every day there are more. But the regulator's capacity is quite linear. So that creates a scam risk. And I believe that we can help to close this gap and reduce the scam risk for new users. So for the regulators, if you find this interesting or have any ideas, come and talk to us. And for the builders, if you want to contribute, if you want to actually build this into a DAO or into a project, talk to us also, because we have an incubator and we can help funding this project. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. Yeah.
Have any questions?
Who do you think is going to be the super regulator?
What?
You had like a image of regulations, and Kleros was in the middle. And you said
Here?
you would like to see someone like a DAO be a super regulator.
Yeah.
Do you see it happening anytime soon, or would that be some combined efforts from Kleros with some other organizations?
Yeah, I think that it would be interesting to see the huge players coming together and saying, hey, we are seeing scams every day. What can we do about it? That's how the Forest Stewardship Council was born. There was a convention in Rio to protect the rainforest, and the politicians didn't arrive to any conclusion. So the local communities and the big enterprises exploiting the rainforest, they got together and they created a policy to award this certification. So I would like to think that we can do something similar using the blockchain that we brand as the ultimate coordination mechanism. I think we have to put it to use. So yeah, and I think the perfect way to do it would be a DAO. But how do we govern that DAO? I don't know. So if anyone has any idea or wants to build this DAO, we at Kleros will be happy to help.
I can imagine that for
making these calls by the court, or I don't know if that's the term you use at Claros.
Yeah.
That a certain level of expertise is required, certain specific areas of specialization. How does Claros deal with that, depending on which cases come up and which experts are required?
Yeah, at Claros, our court is divided into a tree. So you have the general court that is divided into technical and non-technical, and then those are further divided into more specialized courts. And you can choose to stake in a specific court. So that's how we deal with a specialization. The thing is that if you vote in a non-coherent way with the rest of the jurors, you're going to lose part of your stake. So if you are not knowledgeable in certain field, it's not a good idea to stake there because you're not going to be coherent, and then you're going to get sliced and you're going to lose money. So that's more or less how we deal with a specialization.
Specialization and someone says it's that other specialization.
When the dispute is created, they choose a court, a subcourt, and that's up to the decentralized application that integrates us. We are not really choosing the court where it goes. So if you are a gaming use case and you create a gaming dispute, but maybe someone could argue that it's not a gaming dispute because we are treating harassment or verbal abuse. Maybe it's more in a content moderation court. Yeah, maybe they should be more flexible. I mean, that's a parameter that can be chosen in the moment of dispute creation. So it's up to the decentralized application to decide.
Thank you. One last question. If Terra and Luna were on Ethereum, would they have made your list?
No, that's an interesting question because in the Claros token list, as I said before, it's an ERC20 compliant list. So UST was in the list, but we also have a badge for stable coins. DAI has it, and there are a bunch of others, but Terra does not. So it didn't got it.
Any other questions, guys?
Thank you.